Well, let's start then with some breathing. So settle onto your cushion, get comfortable on your cushion. We need a few props. I'm going to use 2 cushions today, or 2 bolsters, so that would be good to have handy, and a belt. Let's see, 2 blankets, and a couple of yoga blocks. So that's pretty well the full complement, I think, of what you'll need. And the theme of today is upper back flexibility and strengthening, and it's particularly related to how you use your arms through the session. Yes, I have a lovely quote. I did a class with a New Zealand teacher this last week named Neil Goshal, and he was quoting someone who I'd never heard of before on kind of the point of doing yoga. And I thought it was so lovely, I want to read it out to you. Bob Sharples is the writer, and I've paraphrased it a little bit, so I hope he doesn't mind. Don't do yoga to fix yourself, to heal yourself, to improve yourself, to redeem yourself. Rather do it as an act of love, of deep, warm friendship to yourself. In this way, there is no longer the need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement, for the endless guilt of not doing enough. It offers the possibility of an end to the ceaseless round of trying so hard that wraps so many of our lives in a knot. Instead, there is yoga practice as an act of love. How endlessly delightful and encouraging. So I subscribe to that idea. And to begin now with some seated breathing, let's just find a place to have your hands comfortably onto your legs. Then relax your elbows and your shoulders. I'm going to do this with my eyes closed. I can sense and feel my breath better that way. This is called square breathing. So imagine the shape of a square, and we're going to do equal parts of inhalation, retention of the inhalation, exhalation, and then retention of the exhalation. So let's begin inhaling, and just find a count that suits you, retaining the inhalation, releasing the exhalation, and then retaining the exhalation. And continue at your own pace, so prolonging the breath without adding any stress on the inhalation and the exhalation. With the retention of the breath on the inhalation and the exhalation, it's not really holding the breath, because when we do that, we kind of tense up. So retention is just like a pause between the inhalation and the exhalation. Because the theme of today is working with the upper back, see if you can feel the breath all the way in the back of the lungs, in the back of the heart. And all that while keeping your shoulders relaxed, your face relaxed. And let's do just one more complete round from inhalation to exhalation and retention. And then very gently coming back to normal breathing. And we'll come on to our mats. I'm about to set up using a yoga blanket, and opening it up so it ends up to be that size and shape. And then on the long side of the blanket, I'm going to roll it up to make a tight tube of it. And you can look forward to a self-massage lying over the blanket. Now, the nice thing about rolling it and making that shape is that you can have it a little bigger or a little smaller depending on if you roll it all the way to the end. So I'm not going quite to the end, and that's the size that I have. And then when you've placed your blanket on your mat, take a reclining position on your back where we get to sense and feel the upper part of your back, where the neck is not supported by the blanket, but just the top ridge of your shoulder line. And then once you've done that, then do a check-in and make sure that this feels like a kind thing to do for your upper part of your back. You're in the line of about T1. And when you're lying like this, see if you can relax there. And if not, then you might have to make that roll of the blanket a little bit smaller. And then take a couple of breaths into the back body, where the inhalation lets you broaden and the exhalation lets you relax. And then you might have worked this out already. We're going to work down the spine. I'd like to say a vertebra at a time, but that's a little bit hard to do. So moving from T1 and down just to the top of the shoulder blades, and pausing there and just letting the weight of your upper back yield to the support of the blanket. So I've got my legs bent and my feet on the floor. If you want a little bit more challenge to yourself as you work your way down your spine, a little bit at a time, you could press your feet into the mat and lift up. So when your buttocks lift up, you're adding that extra bit of weight bearing onto the spinal column. And just coming down to maybe the bottom edge of your shoulder blades by now. But really the key to this is allowing a little pause for breathing in each spot where you stop. And pretty soon you get down to the T10, T12, the bottom of your thoracic. You'll notice along the way that some parts feel more resistant to releasing than others. And eventually, when you get down to the lumbar area, the lower part of your back, there's a natural lordosis or curve there. I'm going to take my arms out to the side and feel what that's like. Or even exploring kind of curious about what's it like to have my arms overhead. All right, and then working the way down to the bottom of the lumbar. And we'll pause there, and then to release from your self-massage, let's just roll over onto the side off the support. And we're going to change over to using the two bolsters, or a cushion and a bolster. So I've got these baby bolsters. I'm going to use one of those to support my rib cage, and then another bolster to support my head. So what would be good probably is to have your head higher than your chest. Taking a side-lying position, reclining position, I'm letting down my ribs onto the smaller bolster and my head onto the larger cushion. I've ended up in a right angle behind my knees and at my hips. Then the supported arm, I'm on my right side, my right arm in between the two cushions, and my left hand on top of my right hand. So I'll give a moment for you to catch up if you're still wondering about rights and lefts. All right, and then let's do a really simple, kind of graceful, languorous movement, and trail your left hand over your right arm and all the way up to the right shoulder and across your chest, across your collarbones. My elbows still bend. And then I'm going to bring the arm back in the same manner to where I started, and both hands together. So feel this in your shoulder blade, where you're lying on your shoulder blade or your upper back. And after a few rolls like this, you might feel disposed to extending that left arm behind you and looking in that direction. And then ending back at home base with the hands joined. So observe your breathing's relaxed, and it might take a breath or two to complete the whole movement. Right, and then finishing back with the hands one on top of the other. See what it's like for you to bring your left arm overhead, and in a circular movement, bringing it over to the left side and then back to where you started. So we're doing a rotational movement for the left arm, the left shoulder, and really in that spirit of discovery. How does that movement feel to you? Is there a place where it feels restricted? And at that point, you could just hang there and notice what that restriction is. But by all means, don't do anything here that takes you over your body's limits. One more of those circular movements. As I do this, I'm just rolling a little bit more towards the left side onto my upper back. And then finally, coming back to where we were. And then a nice way to get over to the other side is to bring the left arm up again and over to the left. At the same time, lift your left knee, lift your left foot, roll onto your back, and there you are on your left side, the left rib supported, and the right hand on top of the left hand. All right, and then let's begin again. And your right hand trails along your left arm. And over to the right side now. Just a slow and graceful and generous movement through your arm and your shoulder. In no way being pushy, but more, as I was saying, that spirit of exploring movement. And what is it like on this side against the first side? All right, and then let's move into that round movement with your right arm circling over to the left side. Right side, I should say, and then back to the left. Find a breathing pattern where the breath feels unrestricted. The nice thing about these arm and shoulder and upper back movements is they seem to incorporate the whole body. So it's easy to feel the movement in the lower spine too and down into the hips. All right, and then finishing with the hands joined again. And so resting on that left side. And just for the fun of it, you could try, and I hope it's fun for you, just opening the right arm to the right side. Lift the right knee away from the left leg and roll onto your back completely. Then do a little moving around, and then you're on your right side again, on your right ribs, and then go back and forth a few times. From left to right, rolling onto your upper back, your shoulder blades. And this movement is very much unpredictable. You're just trying something out that's not one of our usual movements. And maybe that is a way that we can help stiffness, is finding some more unusual movements. And then once you're on your left side again, then just keep going on that side and roll off your cushions. And now we can put them to the side. Let's do a little bit more of connecting arms and shoulders and upper back. So I'm in a kneeling position, sitting on my heels. You might sit on a block or still on a cushion. And then bring your arms up in front of you and cross your arms at your elbows. So I've got my arms in a straightish position, not completely straight. And fingers pointing away from each other and broad through your upper part of your back. In fact, in that sensing and feeling the upper back, maybe you can breathe into the back of the lungs again. We could take this one step further by forward bending and bringing the arms down to rest onto your mat. So you've got just a little bit of weight bearing there, and the arms supporting you. I'm going to see if I can move them a little wider than they were. And then you could do as much or as little forward bending as you want. Buttocks lifting off of the heels and head moving towards the floor. And feel that connection, upper arms, shoulder joint, and broad back. And then come on up again. And then naturally enough, let's swap the arms and one over the other. More that you can point your fingers and stretch your fingers and your palms, wrists, the more opening you get through the upper back. And then from there, taking a bow forward. This side might be completely different, a different sensation. So I've got my arms resting, forearms and hands, backs of my hands resting, and then in bending forward, buttocks come off the heels slightly and head towards the floor. Good. And you know this movement. Come on up from Garudasana if we just bring the forearms perpendicular to the floor. And then you could do a crossover of your hands so your palms are joined, or the back of your hands is fine. And then let your arms hang free. We did that side, so we better do the other side in eagle arms in Garudasana. And there you are, and the elbows in line with the breastplate. Beautiful. All right, let's do one more, maybe two more movements while we're here on the mat, kneeling on the mat. Come to all fours kneeling. So resting your weight onto your hands and your knees. Spine's neutral, relatively straight. And then flex your left elbow a little bit. When that left elbow is bent, I want you to slip your right arm underneath your left arm and come down towards the right shoulder and the side of your head, the right side of your head. And there you are, your weight bearing again on your shoulders. Make sure that feels all right for your body at this time. And then let's bring left hand, left hip. And then allowing for rotation through the upper part of your back. Take a breath or two. And then let's go back to set up for the second side. Balance on your hands, consolidate, and then bend that right elbow a little bit. Slip your left hand underneath your right arm. Come down onto your shoulder, side of your head, right hand, right hip. Keep supporting yourself with your right hand if you find this too strong in your shoulder. That's fine. It's a big movement. And then let's go one more round in which you can challenge yourself if you like, or stay with what we've just done, hand to your hip, or left arm up, I'm on my right shoulder, looking to the right. Good. And coming through your setup, cat pose, moving into weight bearing through your left shoulder, left side of your head, right hand, right hip, or extend that arm straight up towards the ceiling, straight as an arrow through your elbow. Good. Come all the way back, supporting yourself. Do a little check-in here in your cat pose. Look at your hands, and instead of having the weight predominantly through the base of your hands and your wrists, see what it's like for you to press the pads of your fingers. As you press the pads of your fingers, there's a little arch that comes into your hands and a little less weight onto your wrists. I think that's a good thing. All right, and then I think we're finished here in the kneeling position. No, we're not. Let's do child's pose. And buttocks back towards your heels, or your buttocks a little elevated if you need to keep the knees more, give them more space. Let's, from child's pose, have your arms forward and then lift your head and your chest, look forward, and then take your hands on a walk over to the left side. Got my chest up, my head up, and I'm just watching the movement, patting my hands over to the left side, and press your hands a little bit more, and then see if you can bring your ribs across to the left side. And then from there, you could fold up, and your head towards the floor, your chin towards your chest. It's a lateral movement. So we're into, and still staying with the upper back, you could feel the shoulder blade on that right side getting a little bit more lengthening. All right, and then lift your head, walk your hands, take yourself all around, walking to the right side. Good. Stay upright for a little while longer. Your chest is lighter that way, I think. And then drag the ribs around to the right side and take a bow. I've still got my arms straight. It seems to help me lengthen. And then that left shoulder blade stretching away from your left waist. Good. Walk your hands back into center. And then, because we can, and it's a nice thing to do, just take relaxed child's pose. Arms back towards your legs and your head resting. And feel all the work that you've done in your upper back and release any effort there. All right, come on up to standing. And once you're on your feet, let's look for a wall space for a very simple exercise, simple and effective, I think, where you place your hands on the wall, let's say out from your hips, and then take some steps back. Use your body sense and see if you can get the feeling that your back is straight, relatively straight. Often we say flat like a table, but I think that depends on your anatomy. And then from your forward bend that you did here, sort of half uttanasana, stretch into your hands as though you're trying to push the wall away from you. And feel that the motivation for that comes from the arms in the shoulder joint. And then see if you can entertain this idea, is feel the arms strong into the shoulder capsule. So there's an exterior extension outwards, but a strengthening of the arms back into the shoulder socket. All right, and then let's take a step in. Release your arms down by your side. Maybe give your hands and wrists a little bit of a shake out. And then back to using the wall again, your hands onto the wall. And remember that idea about pressing your pads of your fingers a little bit more than into your base of your hand. And then you're relatively straight backed. Let's do the cat pose in this upright position. So lift your spine up towards the ceiling. Bring your chin towards your chest. Exhale. Inhale, going the other way, letting the spine dip a little bit and lifting your chest and look out towards that space between your hands. Take a few breaths like that. and at your own pace. Where on the exhalation, the spine is hooped and your navel draws up. And then on the inhalation, feel your breastplate moving forward and your buttocks moving away from your chest. The back is rounded when you exhale, and then the shoulder blades supporting to the center of the spine when you inhale. All right, and then come back to neutral spine and take a step in, and once again shake it out. All right, let's do some simple movements that will translate in standing poses in a moment. Facing left side to the wall, place your left hand onto the wall out from your shoulders. Okay, you're an arm's length distance away from the wall. And then open your fingers. When you stretch your fingers, your hand feels like it has space, but it's not tense. And then that movement of pressing into the wall. This time, let's work with a spiraling action through your left arm. Turn your upper arm outwards, right at the head of the shoulders. And at the same time, turn the lower arm, the forearm, inwards. And when you look at your arm, the crease of your elbows is perpendicular to the floor. So upper arm turns out, lower arm turns in, and the crease of the elbows is facing directly forward. All right, let's try that on the other side. Placing right hand onto the wall. And this is where I notice for my own body, you might too, that one arm works differently. I'm a tennis player, and occasionally there's tennis elbow there. So then I modify by keeping my elbow a little bit bent. And the pressure into your hand and the upper arm turning out, the lower arm turning in, and that crease of the elbows as nearly as you can perpendicular to the floor. Okay, good. And then release. And let's come into dog pose onto your mat from a kneeling position. One way of working to connect hands and wrists, all of your arms and your shoulders into your back, is to hold your mat, gripping it, your fingers, 4 fingers underneath the mat and your thumbs on top, and pulling the mat slightly forward, as though the mat were somewhat wrinkled and you wanted to stretch it out forward. And then from this position and still kneeling, look at your arms, and you're in a good position to turn the upper arms out. And as you do that, what's the sensation that you get through your shoulders, your upper back? A kind of broadening there. And then at the same time, see if you can do that movement for your lower arm where your forearms are rotating in and the upper arms are rotating out, and the crease of the elbows facing each other. Now we're all set up, so ready to lift up your knees, lift up your hips towards the ceiling. I'm going to stay on the balls of my feet with my heels elevated, and then getting a nice high lift through the hips. And the arms are drawing and hands drawing the mat forward, upper arms rolling out, broaden the upper part of the back. And then take a rest from that effort in child's pose, when you come down, drop your elbows down, draw them back towards your knees, and fold your hands and rest your head onto your folded hands. All right. Come on up to standing. All right, and then let's review that adjustment that we are making, arms and shoulders and upper back. If I have you stand with me with your feet in Tadasana, just a little bit apart, and then your arms by your side, turn your palms directly forward and stretch your fingers, stretch your palms, stretch your wrists. And then from this position, it's really easy to roll your shoulders out and take that external rotation as much as possible. And then merely keep the upper arms turning out and the shoulder blades sitting neatly onto the upper back. And then just turn your palms towards your legs. So the hands, the wrists, the forearms turning in and the upper arms turning out. And then let that go. Just give it a bit of a shake out. Then let's try the same thing from the arms out to the side and extend the arms out sideways to the very tips of your fingers. And then palms upwards and that easy rolling out of the upper arms. You could work with strength here for your triceps by imagining a weight onto each hand. Sometimes we say a silver platter. If you're a weight person and you've got silver platters on your hand and you're pressing up against that weight. And then forget about the platters. Turn your palms down towards the floor and your upper arms are still turning out. And feel the connection all the way into the shoulder joint and then the shoulders into the upper back. And then release. Good. You can get quite a good workout just imagining these movements for your muscles, ligaments, and tendons. So let's put this together in a standing pose into Warrior Two pose. Let's step out wide. And turn your feet to the right. And then once you raise your arms, let's do it this way. Turn your palms so they're perpendicular to the floor and they look like you're doing a halt sign. And in that movement, push out as though you've got some resistance against which you can push each hand until the upper arms feel like they're strong, triceps strong, and then bend your right leg. Good. Keep the hands in that perpendicular position and then turn the upper arms out in the shoulder joint. And at the same time, feel that there's a line of direction that goes from your wrists back into your shoulders. And then the more traditional way, extend your fingers out, extend your wrists out. Upper arms turning out. Look at the crease of your elbows on that right arm and have that perpendicular to the floor again. Beautiful work. And then facing forward and straight right leg. Give your arms a rest, your hands onto your thighs, and turn your feet the other way. Okay, so we're obviously working with strength, but also that positioning of the arms into the shoulder joint and in the upper part of the back. And then arms out to the side, making that halt sign with your hands, upper arms turning out, lower arms turning in, bend your left leg. Good. And as per usual, feel grounded through your feet, firmness through your ankles, and then looking over to that left side, adjusting upper arms, forearms, the elbow crease. Let your chest lift high and light, and pushing out the hands against resistance. Feel the shoulder, the arm bones connect into the shoulder joint. And then that traditional way, extending the arms, the wrists, the fingers, and the right arm extending away from the left arm. Beautiful. And looking forward, and drop your arms, and straight left leg, and feet to center, and come all the way back in. Good. Tadasana. Consolidate. Just feel the arms now loose from the shoulders to the tips of the fingers. And then get yourself a block. Good. Let's look to do Prasarita Padottanasana, wide leg forward fold, with an emphasis on arms and upper back. So take your wide stance, and then place the block out in front of you at a reach on the high end. And feel your feet. I like to do a little foot roll from out to the outer arch of the foot to the inner arch of the foot, just to get my ankles warmed up for this, and then feel your whole footprint well connected with the mat. Take a forward bend from the tops of your thighs and rest both hands onto the top of the block. I've got it on the high end. And as you're weight bearing slightly through your hands, then draw energy up through the arms and into the shoulder joint, and open the top of your chest forward. Take a couple of breaths there, and once again, even into the back of your chest. Let's do a rotation to the right. Left hand rests onto the top of the block, right hand, right hip, and then merely turn to look to the right, and the left side will follow. Anchor the left foot, extend that left leg straight at the same time, and then turn the right shoulder back. And that's a little warm-up. We're going to repeat, but let's go left, and right hand is the supporting hand, the weight-bearing hand, and left hand, left hip. Good. As you look to the left, your line of vision allows the right side to turn. And then to accentuate that, bring the left shoulder back a little bit more. Good. Let's go one more round with an additional element. We've got the left hand supporting, and then test the water. You could extend that right arm up. And what I'm noticing is I just lost some of the connection with the supporting arm. So feel again that you're drawing the supporting arm, the left arm, back into the shoulder joint, and lifting up a little bit more from that left side of the chest. If that arm movement's too strong for you, keep your hand onto your hip. All right. And then let's flip over to the other side, and moving slowly and moving with your breath, and making that connection right from the initial, the outset. Feel the right arm connecting into its shoulder capsule, and the Left arm, bring it up if you like. Don't lose the attention to your right side. Feel your right footprint. Good. And then coming back all the way to center. And then let's knock the block down, if you want to come down a little bit lower to its low edge. Both hands onto the top of the block. Lead with your breastplate and draw the trunk out long. Your arms supporting you. Take support right up into the upper arm, shoulder joint, and into the upper back. Lift your chest. Draw your shoulder blades in towards center spine. And then release your head down and shuffle your feet in. Heel toe to center and come all the way up. We'll do a little bit more for upper back flexibility, and this time connecting with the side ribs, so the lateral body. Take a kneeling position for gate pose, Parigasana, and keep your block near to you. And up kneeling, extend your right leg to the right side. And the block is placed on the left side, out from your left knee. I've got it on the high end, but it could be medium or low. So that's for you to adjust. Good. Let's start from the very center. We're going to go left hand to the block, and weight bearing there. And the whole arm is drawn up into the shoulder joint. Feel your shoulder blade and your upper back, and then extend up your right arm. So just a really easy sideways movement to that left side. Take your right arm overhead and feel like your right leg, a guy wire pushing back into your heel, that direction, and then your right arm extending away from your right leg. Good. Release your shoulders back and feel very much the connection, right arm, right shoulder into your upper back. Inhale and come up. Good. And we might as well go the other way. The classic pose is right arm here, palm upwards, and then trail your right arm along your right leg, a little way along your leg until you feel a hip stretch on the left side, or that's what I'm experiencing. Bring your left arm up, and then similarly to the first side, take your left arm over your right arm. And up you come. And let's go second side. I don't know how these movements are for you, but I really love the lateral movements. And I think it's because the body doesn't get to move that way through the course of our normal activities. So it's like a special treat for opening the body. Let's lean out towards the right side, heel of your hand onto the block, not rushing, and then a relaxed stretch of your left arm above your left ear. And at the same time as stretching back into your left heel. Good. So not endlessly stretching that raised arm out, but feeling it very much in connection with the shoulder joint, shoulder blade, and upper part of your back. Let's switch. Back of your left hand onto your left leg, trail it along, and then add the extra stretch, right arm overhead, and to the left. Feel your right knee, right leg, and anchor, and you're stretching away from that to the left. And inhale and come up. and folding down to the floor, just sitting onto your heels or onto your block and consolidating. All right, I thought I'd just slip in a strengthening pose here for arms, and I found a way to do it which is quite simple in its progression. So let's try a version of Vasisasana. So the way to approach it here is to bend your legs and come down onto your right hip. I'm on my right hip. And onto your right forearm. I've got my right elbow in line with my right hip. And when I look at the position of my legs, a right angle at my hips, a right angle at the back of my knees. Good. And just supported like so. Now picture this. It's good to plan movements or run through them in your imagination before you do them. So you're organizing yourself ahead of time. When you plan on lifting your right hip off the floor, your weight balancing onto your right arm and on your feet. So let's come up, knees and feet supporting you, right forearm, lift your right hip. And at the same time, feel very much the strength of your upper arm into your shoulder joint. And then if it feels like an easy and natural movement, extend the left arm up over your left shoulder and even look up. Good. And lowering down gently. That's side one. Let's flip over to side two. Okay, and adjusting left elbow in line with your left hip, right hand, right hip, and then that intake of breath. Make sure that you're still breathing when you raise up. Inhaling, come up, and then breathing probably deeply as you're weight bearing, and then the right arm up. Good. Feel the lower arm connect with your shoulder joint, your shoulder blade, and your upper back. And then release down. And as usual, in staging these movements, we can progress to a next level of the pose. Let's try that. So there we go. We're set up on your elbow. Except this time, and if you like, and if you feel that you can support yourself, arm strength and shoulder strength, we're going to place the right hand to support, so coming off the forearm. Stay on the forearm for another round and get familiar with it if this doesn't feel appropriate. And then from here, we're going to lift up again, lifting up your hip, and drawing strength from the ground up into your shoulder joint, and also left arm up. And coming down and lowering your hip. I was feeling the challenge on my tennis elbow arm, so I didn't hold it very long, but that's fine. And then set up on the left side, where your right arm straight if you can, or you're on your forearm. Right hand, right hip, lift off. And then right arm up if you can. Can you increase the curve of your left hip or the left ribs into your body? That kind of stimulates your core muscles more. And then lowering down and releasing. All right, let's take a well-earned rest from the effort of that last pose, Vasisasana. And perhaps eventually we'll complete to the classic pose, which is with your legs straight out. But that won't be today, so rest assured. I'm going to take my blocks. I've got 2 blocks now, and set them up as a T shape. So one block placed long ways will support my dorsothoracic, my upper back, between the top of my spine and the bottom of my shoulder blades. Second block probably should be a little bit higher, and that's going to support the back of my head. Blocks are a little unforgiving because they have firmness and kind of sharp edges. So I'm going to cover my setup with a blanket because I do want this to be comfortable. So in reclining, I'm going to try on my setup, and because I've done this before, I struck it pretty well. So this is supportive and creates an opening and an opportunity to relax in the upper back, the lower back, the arms and shoulders. If you're not finding it so, then you can take a lying down position unpropped, and that will be fine. We're going to stay here for a few minutes. And this is the opportunity, just if you wish to close your eyes, and do a scan of a few of those areas that we've been working with. Now, you're not committed to this if you're not going to commit to yourself if you're not comfortable. So do any shifting around of the props that are necessary. Or, like I said, just lie completely flat in constructive rest, your feet on the floor and your knees resting against one another. Take time here in scanning your body. From the top of your spine, we'll say at the base of your neck, to feel the top line of your shoulders relax outwards. And drawing the arms down if you haven't done that adjustment. And as you let your forearms be supported here, relax in the crease of your elbows. Might feel like the arms are shrinking back a little bit towards the floor. Notice if there's any residual tension in the upper arms muscles that you drew on for the last pose, or even into the capsule, the housing of the arms into the shoulder. And finally here, notice if there's any holding back, like not giving over to the props for whatever reason. Notice if you're holding on in any parts of your torso, your upper limbs. Or notice if you're holding in, and particularly addressing the breath. And set your breath free, unconstrained. And then let's do a release from these props and merely lying flat. So if you roll off them and remove them, I've got a nice soft blanket to lie on. And just letting go. So in the program that we've done so far today, let's complete what we've done with a seated twist. So I'll ask you to come up and find a seat. I'll be sitting on a folded blanket, a 3-fold blanket. You might want to sit on a platform for yourself. With your legs straight out in Dandasana. And I still have a block right next to me, handy. Going to bend in my left leg and let the knee drop out to the side. And when I've done that, my knee is very close to the floor. But if your knee is elevated, take a support. Once you do that, then the groin can relax a little bit more when the leg knows that it's able to release. So the twist is to the right side. Left hand on the outside of the left knee. Right hand, bring it around your back so the forearm is parallel with the floor. And I've finished up and I've done a slight rotation through the upper part of my back to the right. And I can increase that movement. I'm going to give this a try. If I left hand takes my right hand and draws it around a little bit more to the left waist. And I'm very close to holding my thigh. If I lean forward, I can hold my thigh. And I've got that support with my forearm against the bottom of my rib cage, and I can lift up. And simple as that. Let's go to the other side. We'll repeat what we've done on each side. Extend out the left leg, Dandasana, draw the right leg in. Take support for your knee as needed. I'm going to make sure that my right foot isn't hiding underneath my left leg. So drawing it out a little bit. And then from here, I'm going to turn from right to left. Right hand, left knee, or at the outside of the shin bone. And the left hand all the way around the back. And snaking around towards your right hip. You could help it along and draw the arm around in a kindly fashion. And then I can just reach at the top of my thigh if I lean out. You can hold your t-shirt, you can hold your waistband, and then drawing the left shoulder back and looking left. Good. Let's let it go. And for the last round, turning right again. Sometimes your body just needs to know the pathway to the movements or to the poses. So on second round, you may be able to go a little deeper or not. It's not necessary, or you can even back off. And then left hand, left, right leg. I'm going to lean out over my right leg and see if I can move my left hand closer to my ankle. And it's within striking distance, so I'll hold the outside of my right foot. Then pull back, lift up, draw the right shoulder back. See if you can make that turning come from the upper part of your back. All right, and moving on to the last side finally, and left leg straight. And we go slowly and step by step, and according to your, respecting your body limits, any limits, and then the lean out over that leg lets me bring my left arm around a little bit more. And then lengthening along the leg, right hand reaching for the outer shin bone, the outer ankle, the outer little toe side of your foot. And turning from the upper body. And then facing forward, releasing, and both legs straight. Lovely. And then we have time now to do a relaxation. So get what you need for that suits you in support. So I've got a blanket for my head and one of these small bolsters for the backs of my knees. Probably a particularly appropriate or nice way to finish here in setting your body up for comfort. Wrap your arms around the front of your chest and reach your fingertips around towards the outer shoulder blades. Do a little side-to-side rock on your upper back a few times. Even that feels like a nice massage. And then the shoulder blades draw out from center spine. And then when you release your arms back to where you would like to place them out from your body, or resting your hands onto your abdomen is a really nice variation. But in the way that we've worked the class today, I think arms out to the side, not too far, and then letting the forearms be supported. Feel the knuckles where they rest on the floor, the upper arms. If you notice that you are a little heavier on one shoulder blade than the other, you could do a wriggle and adjusting until they feel more settled or more even. Form a neat square with the floor. And then when you finish up, they are what they are. And we just let the upper back rest. In as complete a way as possible. from the top of your head to your finger pads, to your heel bones and toes. Release any effort that remains in your body. How to do that with your exhaling breath. You might begin to form the thought about moving, just bringing your attention fully back onto the physical body, aware of the environment in which you lie, any sounds, and then be very gentle with yourself in moving on to the right side or the left side and coming up to seated position. So once seated, our opportunity here when we join our hands is to refresh the salutation with the energy from the practice and feeling to create it as a new sense of the meaning of the position. So feel into where your hands are placed in front of the heart center, and breathe into the heart, the lungs, the back of the chest. And the meaning of the gesture is one of showing respect to ourselves. The caring that comes from practicing and from practicing together. And then most importantly, sharing that particular energy with the wider world, with the larger community. And so we say namaste. Thank you.